I mean, William Burns was then posted to Moscow, wasn't he? The former CIA director.
Correct.
And he wrote in a
As ambassador.
memo in 1995, hostility to NATO expansion is almost universally felt across the domestic political spectrum here. Now, it seems a long time ago, but it was February 2008 when the Russian Foreign Secretary Sergei Lavrov warned Burns, then ambassador to Moscow, that the issue of NATO membership for Ukraine, quote, could potentially split the country in two, leading to violence and even civil war, which would force Russia to decide whether to intervene. So, Ramesh, despite all of these warnings, they have been violated, haven't they?
Well, the warnings have been ignored. The assurances that were given have been breached on the loyally reasoning that there was no official agreement, which is correct.
Yeah.
But you don't go by just agreements.
No.
I mean, you have to understand. And that is why there's a lot of lack of support for the Western sanctions against Russia in the non-Western world. I think it was very clearly expressed by South Africa's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, back in March when he said that there were multiple warnings given by your own officials and your own analysts about how Russia would react to this. And now they have reacted like that. You're crying foul.
I know. And what were they up to at the Bucharest summit declaration, affirming, and I quote, Ukraine and Georgia will become members of NATO, which Ukraine hasn't, I might add, but nonetheless. I mean, there were no written pledges, as you say, but do you think this explains the Russian narrative that America were maximising their position at the cost of Russian interests and in breach of the agreed understandings by Russia on the terms of the post-Cold War settlement?
It does. There were two contrary pressures that the West and the United States in particular were faced with, to be fair to them. One was a lot of these former Soviet satellite countries in Eastern and Central Europe, for good historical reasons, feared the threat from Russia. So they sought NATO membership, and increasingly they were granted that. And they all had political constituencies within the domestic systems in the West. At the same time, Russia kept saying, don't go any further. This is now starting to cross red lines. And what the Americans never sat down and decided clearly was, is Russia permanently defeated, no longer a great power, in which case we can keep doing this and there will never be a pushback, or is in fact Russia in temporary retreat and will push back? And that's one of the things further that William Burns in that cable did say. He said in the 1990s, Russia was too weak and felt defeated and lacked the capacity to push back. Now they believe they have regained that capacity. And that's clearly seen in a number of statements
even though
from
the military has been humiliated in Ukraine. Just a quick question before you go. Will Putin lose, or has he now decided to limit his territorial and political goals?
Well, you know, we don't have an accurate read. Look, the Biden administration thought Afghanistan would be able to hold out for 1 year.
Yeah, that's right.
And they thought Ukraine would fall within days.
Yes.
That's how accurate our assessment is. So we don't know. It is conceivable in my mind that all along Putin's real goal has been limited to the Donbas region, to eastern and southern Ukraine, getting a land corridor through to Crimea and getting acceptance of Russian annexation of Crimea. And the pressure on Kyiv in the early weeks was to make sure that Ukraine was not able to reposition its forces and bolster the troops in the east.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is possible. So his original goal may all along have been that.
Yeah, and the other thing that I've made,
alternatively, if he's good,
the other point that I've made is that,
alternatively, if he's facing defeat, he may escalate to nuclear weapons.
The other point I'd make is that Putin would like his hands on Ukraine's natural resources. Good to talk to you, Ramesh. It's a really imponderable issue, quite frankly, but there are many factors involved in all of this, and what we've outlined to you tonight is but one of them. Ramesh Thakur, thank you for your time tonight.